Thanks. Welcome to the November 12th work session for the Haddonfield Public Schools Board of Education meeting. Call the meeting to order. And ask Mike to take roll.
Mr. Bedford. Here. Ms. Crooked.
Here.
Ms. Hogue.
Here.
Ms. Hogartle.
Here.
Ms. Kuttner.
Here.
Ms. Paoli.
Here.
Mr. Vecchio. Here. Vice President Seidel.
Here.
President Sangillo.
Here. If you rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mike, would you mind reading us the statement concerning open public meetings?
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Superintendent of Schools in the following manner. On January 10th, 2020, notice of this meeting was posted on the interior of the school administration offices, 1 Lincoln Ave, Haddonfield. Written notice was submitted and filed with the Haddonfield Borough Clerk, and notices were faxed to the Courier Post, mailed to the Retrospect newspaper.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so accommodations will be next week, correct?
Yes.
No, number 2 presentation. It's just going to be you, Chuck, correct?
Yeah, well, Gino's got a little bit for.
Well, no, I mean, the way it orders is the presentation, then we do the board members, and then we do the superintendent.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Dave, you will go,
I'll save it for next week.
Do we meet in finance facilities, Susan?
Monday, I think, right?
We do. Monday.
Next week.
Right, okay. Lynn, we had a media policy committee.
We did. We had a meeting yesterday. I sent minutes this morning, so hopefully you guys all got those. We talked about the 17 policies and regulations that are on the agenda for a second reading this month. And it was really helpful. Dr. Priolo pulled in our safety specialist and the nurses, an athletic director, business administrator to talk about each of the policies and regulations that would impact the work they do, to see if they had any questions or concerns. And there weren't any. In fact, in most cases, and any of the new requirements are already in place. So that was good news and really helpful. And we talked about a mandated new policy that is up for a first reading this month. That is the remote public board meeting during an emergency. And again, most of those requirements we already meet as we do now. The only thing that would be new is that members of the community, if they wish to, submit written comments or questions before the meeting. And then, like during the public comment portion of the meeting, we read those comments or questions. Otherwise, everything on that policy we already are doing. And then, as we've been doing the last few months, we've been reviewing current policies to make sure that everything is up to date. We looked at 14 policies yesterday, and one of them we are not changing, but we thought it was important to highlight. It deals with board member use of social networks. I know there are a lot of community members who are very active on social media, and they will ask questions about board business or have concerns about board or district business, and there is sometimes some frustration that we do not engage in those discussions. So I'm just actually going to read a portion of this policy. It's policy 0169.02. And it says that board members are advised not to respond to any postings regarding Board of Education or school district business, or respond to any question or inquiry posted to the board member or posted on any social network regarding Board of Education or school district business, and shall refer any such questions or inquiries to the superintendent of schools to address as appropriate. So for any members of the public who are watching, it is not because we are not being transparent or we don't take your concerns seriously. It is our policy not to engage in conversation on social media. So there were a couple policies that we pulled, the current policies, just to take another look at in upcoming months, and those will come up in the next couple meetings, mostly just minor edits. So long meeting, but we covered a lot of.
Thanks, Lynn. Jimmy, do you have anything you want to cover with communications?
I did not. Or, well, the most recent one went out, I think it was Monday or Tuesday this week.
Board meeting
Board meeting minutes.
bulletin?
Oh, thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Gina.
Thanks.
Tom, anything?
Finish line is in sight. We are meeting with the association representatives tomorrow at 1. And hopefully, more to report next week.
Thank you, Tom. All right, Gino, do you have a enrollment update?
Yeah, I just provided for you, just disregard the title at the top of this, it does have the incorrect date, but the data is correct. And this just gives a breakdown by classes at the elementary level and class numbers at the middle school and high school. Obviously, these don't seem to have the same impact when all students are in the classroom, but I thought I'd give an update on our current numbers as they stand.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gino. All right, Mr. Klaus, you have a couple of presentations, a couple of updates for us?
Updates for us, yeah. Share my screen.
While you're doing that, I do have a question about enrollment for, did we lose any tuition students due to, our return to school plan?
As part of the, not that I'm aware of. Do you know?
We had, I think, some applicants that might have rescinded, new applicants, but I don't believe any of our current students prior to the pandemic
Oh, good.
returned.
All right, thank you.
I think it was more one of those, all the uncertainties and then having a person.
All right, so my report for this week, couple things to talk about. The first was a quick one. As many of us know, we lost power to Elizabeth Haddon today. In the morning, I had to go full virtual. I think that's the third time in 15 months or something like that, which that seems like a lot to me, considering it's 2020. So we're going to look into that. I mean, I know there's a lot of trees. It was raining, but it seems like that's excessive. I was talking to Mayor Rochford today, and he said, give a call, and he can maybe push some people to get there quicker, get things resolved quicker in the future. So we had that. I'm going to talk about public attendance and board meetings, COVID number updates. I really should rename it. I think on the agenda it says this is update on phase 2. This is update on COVID status more than phase 2 right now, because things have changed dramatically in the last 10 days. What that would look like as far as contact tracing, potential school closings, and then I will talk about phase 2 briefly, and then we're going to talk about this recent Spirit Week fundraiser. So public in-person attendance of board meetings. What we're going to do is beginning next week, there's a new regulation, emergency regulation for remote public meetings that permits and even encourages in-person attendance. One of the challenges is that we are still limited by executive order to 25 people in attendance. So you look at that, that's 9 board members. We have generally 4 administrators here, 2 technology staff. That gives us 6 spots to use. We're going to reserve 3 seats for press. We'll have seats reserved for the HEA, and then we're going to have 6 seats open to the public. And then we're going to start this next week, the 22nd. Agendas are posted on Tuesday, so we believe that we should post the agenda before we ask people if they want to come, because we're going to make sure that people have interest in the topics. So maybe particularly want to hear about item A, B, C, or D. They see that on the agenda, they're going to want to try to come to the meeting. Once that happens, we're going to use every means of communication possible, because it's not just the school people we need to invite, we need to invite the community at large. We'll send a link to sign up for a form. We'll randomly select the 6 individuals, random.org or one of those websites will do that for us very quickly, and they will be invited to the board meeting. I put this in red. We'll still be live streaming the meetings. This is not to replace this, so it's not going to have 6 people at our meetings from now on. We'll be doing what we're doing now, but we'll have other people in the room with us. And well, as someone jokingly said, I'm very, very optimistic that we'll be doing this next week. Any questions on that?
Just a question of how does the message get out to the community?
we're gonna work with the borough. We'll do all of our e-blasts, and the borough also has a large network of getting out to the community. So we're gonna just try everything we can. Through social media, email, work with the borough, help them blast some stuff out, try to get that. COVID numbers in phase 2. We saw this last week. This is the Cali score. This is the weekly index that gives us where we stand with COVID numbers based on percent per 100,000 cases per 100,000, COVID-like illness, and then percent positivity. Here's where we are right now. This is the Southwest. So this is Burlington, Gloucester, Camden, and Salem County. That's our region. One of the challenges with this is you'll notice I have numbers in there for the 14th, 11-14, but this is actually a week behind. So they tally the numbers, they post them for up to last Sunday. They don't post them until today, for up until Sunday. And so we're still in yellow. We're still there. But if you look at it, and you can't, I have my mouse here, right? If you look at these numbers, this is the case rate, and it's going up. Now, I took the 30 there. What that represents is, if you look at COVID Act Now, which is a website that tracks daily infection rate, transmission rate, and case rates, since Sunday, when this last day came out, it's averaging like 34. About 34 didn't fit on my chart. Today was 37 cases per 100,000. So this is absolutely trending in a direction that no one wants to see right now. So that's where we are. Camden County is one of the worst in the state right now. Burlington County is still orange, but as far as infection rate, but Camden and Gloucester have both gone red. The reason why we're probably still at a 2 for the Cali score is Salem County is not being affected greatly at all, and that's part of our region. In Haddonfield School District, 16 total cases we've had. One was added about 4 o'clock today. This includes up till this is very much live. Within the last 14 days, there's 12. And the reason I pulled the last 14 days out is that's what the Department of Health uses as a chunk time, because that's the quarantining time. So that's a significant number. There's 4 students at the high school, 4 at middle school, 1 staff member at middle school, and 3 staff members at Lizzie Haddon. We actually got lucky with some of the timing of this. I'm going to talk about some timing later on. Because a lot of these cases popped up over last week's break, there was no contact tracing back into the school because it's 48 hours back from your symptoms or your test, so it didn't hit there. We had 4 cases from September and early October. You can see 1 high school, 1 middle school, 1 central, 1 Tate. Now, when you look at these numbers, and we're getting a lot of talk going on, I'm sure everyone here has seen the CHOP article, which is across the front of the Inquirer, and was sent to me by many people. A lot of people share that with me. They think she should close all schools. I'm in conversation now with the Department of Health, and I asked this very specific question about guidance about when I should start considering closing down schools. And so this information I have is from them. These are things to consider, right? So the distribution of cases within a school. So for instance, we have Central hasn't had one since September. So that's fine. They're good. There's a COVID-19 regional risk matrix, which is, you hear yellow, we're still in yellow. So that's yellow. That matrix would tell us not to do anything. We're in yellow, because that's where we are. Orange says start thinking different. Whether cases are linked to outside exposure or inside school transmission. This is a big factor. I'm going to talk about where we contact traced, where we got information about exposure has been. Exposure has not been in school. Exposure has been outside school, right? So when we talk to the Department of Health about these, they're saying, and I'll get to it in a minute, what you're talking about, even though the numbers seem high with 4 in the building, is not an outbreak because it doesn't fit the definition of an outbreak because it's not happening here. It may be an outbreak on a sports team, so the sports team's closed for 14 days, but it's not an outbreak in the school. So they were very much clear on that you have to be careful what you call and how you define these things. Number of close contacts being excluded. So this is the factor that's probably more significant for us. When I get to the high school on a page, you're going to see the numbers of students who are not quarantining, because it's a little bit different, who are excluded from coming to school. And the number of students excluded from school becomes a significant factor in whether or not you should be closing the building. And then the guidance on the term outbreak, you see it's 2 or more laboratory confirmed COVID-19 tests that are linked. So if we have our 4 kids in the high school, we can say we know one got it from here, one got it from there, one got it from there, one got it from there. They're not linked. It's got to be from each other in the high school. So we're getting close to that because some of them are probably through athletics, right? So they're linked, but the athletics have been shut down. So that's kind of how this logic, well, it might seem logical. That's kind of how this process works. So based on the information, I went over them. I had our cases. I laid them down, and in quotes here, the entire family's testing positive, and the spread likely from parties and social activities outside of school hours would not constitute an outbreak. And that's from the Department of Health. So right now, technically, we don't have an outbreak because it's coming from outside the school. And even at that, it's an outbreak doesn't mean you have to go full virtual. It just means you're doing an outbreak. So here's what we found. Here's our spread and contact tracing. We've got 12 new cases in the last 14 days, 4 staff members, 2 were third-party employers. So they don't work for us. They work for a substitute service, so they work for an outside contractor. And one of them was only in the district 1 day. And that happened to be that. 2, we know their contacts, their exposure, and they were both outside of school. There were 2 different buildings, those two, by the way. 11 students, 7 of those had families as close contacts. And some of those are siblings. So out of those 7, we've got a couple sets of siblings in there too. And then for the activities outside the school day, that's where we got into some of the athletic pieces and those type of things. And then I'm going to talk in a couple seconds about the excluding quarantine students and staff. And the difference is when I'm saying excluded, this is when we send a letter to you and say, you can't come to school for 14 days. That's being excluded. We can't quarantine people. They have to quarantine themselves. Quarantine are travel. They're exposed to a family member at home. They're exposed to someone at work, so they stay home for 14 days. That's a different thing. So when we talk excluded, that's people we say, you're a close contact, having something to do with the school district, therefore you have to stay home. And here are our numbers. Right now at the high school, you have 136 students who are being excluded. So there's 136 students right now who we tell them they can't come to school. That's because you have 3 big sports athletic teams that have been shut down for 2 weeks, right? That's the football, the girls tennis, and the boys soccer. The boys soccer was shut down from another school, right? So that's how this tracing can work. So we played Cherry Hill West in soccer. They got a positive case. They called us. We called the Department of Health. The Department of Health says, close contact. That's a soccer game. You're running next to each other. You have to close for 2 weeks. So that's how that works in there. You see we have no staff excluded. Middle school, we have 3 students who are excluded. They're positive tests, I think. 1 staff member is a positive test. In the elementaries, the 3 staff members are the positives. The rest, there's Central, Middle, Tatum, they're doing great with those things. And this not going to shock you why. Because the social lives of pre-K to 5th graders is much different than the social lives of 6 to 8, which is much different than social lives of 9 to 12. We know of at least 2 big significant Halloween parties, right? We know there was a big party this last weekend. It's not unreasonable to draw the conclusion that the spreading is happening in a social setting. Because even our sports teams follow rules pretty clearly. We still have sports teams that have not been affected yet, so they're following rules. And while we can't quarantine, we can only exclude. I am hoping, and I think the message is clear. 136 kids we have excluded. That doesn't mean just not coming to school. They should be home, not interacting with others, doing all of those things because that's how we keep things running. So you look at the quarantine numbers, and these are quarantines because of travel. Quarantine, like I said, because of exposure. You have a family member who was tested positive, so we're going to keep you home for 2 weeks. There are parents who are being very, very diligent about this. Your child doesn't feel well, they're quarantining, right? So those numbers include those groups of people. You can see the numbers there. They're throughout. Now, middle school, that number's pretty high because, as you probably know, there was a town sports team that was impacted by COVID. That doesn't count. We don't exclude those students because that wasn't a school district activity. That was a Haddonfield youth sports activity. So Haddonfield youth sports deals with that, and those students quarantined. And so that's where we are. So as we're trying to decide whether or not we're going to shut down a building, and this is, I want to make this very clear. We can shut down a building. We can shut down a classroom, right? We don't have to say Haddonfield School District right now feels it's important to stay home for 2 weeks. We can do that. But as I said, the exclusion number tells us that there's something going wrong with the population. That a population is being affected disproportionately. That's why that 136 at the high school is a big number, right? And we have to start saying, okay, when is it the point where we say, and right now, I don't know the exact number I'll be talking. As a matter of fact, all superintendents in Camden County are getting tomorrow morning to talk about this very topic. So we're sharing ideas. But the high school is probably getting close to being shut down. It's probably right there, right? If we get a couple more cases, we have to exclude another 50, 60 kids. It's probably right there. At this point in time, we feel it's still safe in the school building. Still, we can see the contacting, the exposure is not happening in the building. So right now, I'm leaning not to do anything, but I am ready to close the high school almost at any minute. So if I go home tonight and Nurse Regatta calls me up and says, we have 3 more, Chuck, you might be getting an email later on tonight saying, rethought that real quick. Not going to close the high school in my mind right now, but I am ready to make that move. And that's why I talk about this. I know they're not listening because what high school kid is in a board meeting. The 136 kids, they hold our fate right now, right? They're the ones, if they stay home and they quarantine, that's how this works. So we're hoping that that's what's going to happen. That's going to make that help keep us open. Any questions about that? Yes.
So I'm just trying to understand, is it just out of an abundance of precaution that if the excluded or quarantine number goes up, that you would then want to close the school? Because the ones that are still there would not.
It's because in these cases, it seems it's growing outside the school and it's still impacting the population. So technically, you're right. There's fewer kids in school, as you'd be safer.
And it's not spreading in school,
Right.
So they're almost safer in school.
Right.
But
There's also comes a point where you have so many kids out, it might be more effective educationally too, for virtual. But that's just one of the numbers that the Department of Health has included, is that when you have things going on, like the exclusions become so high, there's something that's not being controlled that you have to, out of caution, take a step.
so, and I'm stating the obvious, but in an effort to keep schools open, people would be very wise to be cautious
Yes.
outside of school so that we can keep the schools open.
Correct. And sometimes, if you think about the situation I said with our soccer team, a kid on another school was on the same field with them. Now, if it was the goalie, I don't know who it was, and you're the other goalie, you weren't in contact with that kid, but you're still not. You're still, that's in the level of caution they use with that. So we do need to, and it'd be very easy for someone to rationalize and say, I couldn't have been in close contact with the kid because I'm the goalie. No one comes near me. I can go out. But that's where we need to have, as you said, that air of caution that we really want to make sure we stick to this. And for those of us who are listening, who do, we have to, can't have any more parties. I mean, it sounds like that is so crucial, right? That if we're a community who's responsible for each other and wants to care about each other, it's difficult, right? But that's an important factor, that this is a disease of practice and habit. And if everyone is cautious and everyone does what they need to do, it can be handled better. So that's a big factor in that as well. Any other questions on that? Because my next slide is a pretty simple one. Phase 2 is delayed indefinitely. I'm sure that was obvious, but I wanted to say that out there. We were looking for stable or decreasing numbers of 10 per 100,000 and below 5 in percent positivity. And right now, we're at 22.7 per 1,000. And like I said, this week it looks to be over 30 per 100,000. And our percent positivity is now over 7. It's been rising. So this, I don't see, and I don't know numbers of disease spreading. I don't see how this could trend and go the other way quick enough for this to have any realistic future of going to phase 2 anytime in the near future, which is a shame. I thought we had a good plan. I think people were excited about it. I think it was a great thing, but I think now it'd be a risky thing and a dangerous thing. So for right now, we're holding off on any announcements about when we'll be doing phase 2. Now, next week I come back, we have 5 days in a row where numbers are driving down again. You might hear me say phase 2 again. I don't think that's likely.
Chuck, is phase 2 a on-off switch for the district, or is there a possibility that one school, and not school, but a level, elementary could be in phase 2 where
we could do that. We could do that. And that might be, if the numbers start to decrease and we know, we see the patterns of our statistics, we can consider that. But I just think right now.
I completely agree.
But no, if it's getting closer and we have still not had a positive case of a student in any elementary school, maybe we kick phase 2 in the elementary schools and then phase 2 for middle and high school 2 weeks later. I mean, that is a possibility, sure.
Sure.
Yes.
On the on-off switch, follow-up is, how disruptive is the switch? Like, going to phase 2, can you go back easy, or, how difficult is that for the staff?
It'll be an adjustment, but I would say that by going to combined cohorts in the morning only is an easier switch than if our phase 2 were to go full day with lunch, right? Now all childcare changes, all schedules change that way. It changes family lives. So this would just be, instead of being there for those 4 days in the morning or 5 days in the morning, you go right back to where you were, and it'll be a smoother transition back. I think that was one of the positives that we didn't think about, but we discussed it as a leadership team. We thought that was a good benefit of the double cohorts in the morning. All right. As you know, I'll give you some background for maybe people don't know if you don't have students who've been in the high school. So every week, the week before Thanksgiving is Spirit Week, and it's a great week, and unfortunately won't be as great as it's been in the past because of our environment with COVID. But each grade level will pick a charity or charities. One of the events they do is they pick a charity or charities. They fundraise for the events. They do other things too. There's scavenger hunts. There's a pep rally. There's powder puff football. It's a great week. It's a lot of fun. And if you're a building administrator here, you actually move in for 6 days because you can't leave the building. Because it's crazy. So as you know, this year our juniors, and how charities are selected is student council officers will pick charities, and they'll be voted on by the class, and then they pick the charity and they raise money for it. Whoever raises the most money for their class, they win points and they can win Spirit. That's true. This week, our junior class decided they were going to do something with social justice, right? They wanted to make a statement on social justice. They were impacted greatly by the events of the last 12 months or so, and they wanted to make a statement that we think this is important, and we want to do something about this to make a better world. They start off with 4 charities. If I get them wrong, I'm sure I'll get corrected. They had the 4 they started to choose from was the Southern Poverty Law, the Urban League, NAACP, and Black Lives Matter. They voted 2 against 2, and then they took a bracket and they came down and it was selected Black Lives Matter. When that information was put out to families, there were responses and reactions that I think it's safe to say, and I'm sure Ms. Gold could speak to them more thoroughly. The students weren't expecting. They didn't think this would cause anyone to be upset, but people were. In an effort to make peace, the suggestion was made that we offer another charity that would then quell some discomfort. And that was then met with, well, you back down on something you're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be talking about cultural responsiveness. You have board goals. This is important to these kids. This is not the right thing to do. So Ms. McHale and Ms. Gould sat down with the officers and they broke down the events, they discussed it, and they decided they were going to eliminate the second charity and stick with Black Lives Matter. Completely supported by the administration of the high school and the central office administration. It was a difficult week for a lot of people. Some of the kids, but it should be noticed, it wasn't just kids. There were some students who were not happy with the choice either, I think it's fair to say. So it was a tough week, but we're doing something now. If we're going to try to make moves to become an anti-racist institution that are difficult and things we've never done before, and there's growing pains. And I think this is one of those growing pains, right? I mean, it's in an attempt to make peace. A decision was made that, in the time and place, seemed like a very good decision. Seemed like it made a lot of sense. In reflection, maybe not the best decision. But I think the end result of the discussions that happened around it, I think the end results of going back and saying this was not the right decision, we're going to go back to the original decision. I think all of those things showed a lot about our staff who works with these kids, and really a lot about our kids. The kids felt strong with it. This is what they want to do, and we're happy to be able to support them in that. It's also another aspect of this that makes this even more challenging. You have these difficult challenges we're doing now, where we're trying to take on these important big issues, and it's hard. It's hard work. It's harder than any of us ever expected. And when you're in the grind of it, it's painful work. It's actually painful. I'm not exaggerating because I've seen it. I've been in part of it. But we're also the community where we do work to please everyone. No is not a word philosophically this school district uses a lot to people, right? We do accommodate different beliefs whenever we can. So when the suggestion of put a second charity in, it's part of the expectation of this community that they're not going to be told that they don't get what they want. I mean, that's probably too simplified, but we do bend for people to try to please as many people as we can. And so there are two cultures. It's the culture that we try to please everyone because we want to be an inclusive, welcoming school. And then we're trying to do this new work with this cultural responsiveness. So there's actually if you think there's two layers to this decision making. And so credit to Ms. Gould who worked with the kids and came back and came with the right answer. Credit to Ms. McHale who was part of that journey. And I mean, that's where we are right now. The end result is it was announced today that we're going to stick with Black Lives Matter as a charity. Any questions or any? All right. You want to say something? Ms. Gould's here. She wants to say something.
I said most of what I was going to say.
Sorry.
I'm not going to lie. I just want to thank you all for having me here tonight. I think it was important for me, for you and the public to kind of hear my voice in this as well. I felt that I'm going to recap the whole thing and some of what Chuck already said. Last June, that's when the officers initially started to poll and survey the members of their class to select a charity for Spirit Week. The students were given the option of either sticking with the charity they had done last year, which was Feed My Starving Children, or selecting a new charity. And the majority of them decided that they wanted to select a new charity. A second poll went out to suggest charities. The officers and delegates had really gotten a lot of feedback from people and wanted to do charities that focus on racial inequality, social justice, And that was, something that they kind of went with, and they asked for charity suggestions related to that. The 4 charities that Chuck mentioned were nominated, and additional polls went out, and obviously we came to the conclusion that Black Lives Matter was the charity that the class chose. After my initial email went out earlier this month, we did receive some emails that were really focused on that Black Lives Matter, they felt had a political affiliation, a political organization that just didn't have a place in our schools. In an effort to calm those tensions, like Chuck said, we're people pleasers. We are people that try and work to accommodate. And, you know, as a result of that, I made a suggestion that we create a second charity. And we went back to adding in Feed My Starving Children, because I didn't want to suggest a charity that went along the lines of racial inequality, because I didn't want that money that people were going to donate towards Black Lives Matter to then be divided between different charities. Those kids selected Black Lives Matter, and I wanted the majority of that money to go there. I think one thing to clarify is there's no money that's like that we make from the spiritware that goes into a pot and then is divided up by charities. All the donations that we receive are in addition to the spiritware. So it's something that parents pay above and beyond what the spiritware is. There's no money that goes from that clothing sale to these charities. And parents would have to suggest which charity they wanted the money to go to. Immediately after that second email went out, I was made aware of how that decision made many in our community feel, okay, especially our families of color. My intentions to unify 100% missed the mark, okay? They further acted to divide and made, frankly, some people feel less valued and respected. Since then, I've had amazing, deep, meaningful conversations with many people in our community, and I am very grateful for those who opened up, who honestly shared their perspectives and allowed me the grace to reflect and learn on what they were saying and for me to grow as a person. I come to you as board and the community to offer my sincerest apologies. I did not intend to hurt anyone, but I did so in not taking a step back and thinking about how my actions would affect those students and families of color and all those who were working so actively to combat the social inequalities and systemic racism that unfortunately exists in our society. Aside from my apology, I think it's really important that I also hope to teach the students, okay, in this situation, this is a teaching moment, right? It's in those deep and difficult conversations that I've had this week where true learning and understanding comes from. It is vitally important to actively listen, okay, to reflect on our decisions and then to act. And as adults, I think it's really important for us to demonstrate to our students the importance of admitting when we're wrong and we make a mistake, and that, you know, you can own that mistake and you can grow from it, and that's what makes us better people. I am incredibly, incredibly proud of my students. They lead the way, and they're teaching us how to be strong people, and their voice is so strong, and I cannot be more proud of them. We really could take a page from what they're teaching us right now. And I strongly and confidently stand with them. And I thank you as the Board of Education and our administration for standing with us on this.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Rachel.
Rachel, I just want to say, I mean, I really appreciate you talking through this and letting us know, you know, what went on. These are tough decisions. They're tough decisions for adults. They're even tougher decisions for young adults. I appreciate what you said today, and I think that as we are moving toward where we want to be, we're going to stumble again. So this is not, you know, pointed at you. This is, we're going to stumble, and then we need to get back up and keep headed in the right direction. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to add to, I mean, Rachel and I talked about it. This
Tammy?
happened.
It's Tammy McHale.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
because you're not on camera. just so
Yeah,
people know who's talking.
that's fine.
Tammy McCall.
Sorry. We started to get feedback on Monday, and the hardest part for us was, we're in a pandemic. So I know social media is something we're trying to teach our students how to navigate, but the adults use it as well. And so we don't really usually give out information. It's already out there somehow. And I think that was the most frustrating part for us, was we couldn't just grab kids out of class like we normally do. We wanted to have a face-to-face. We wanted them all together. Now we're dealing with cohorts and office hours that are mandatory. So it felt like forever, but in reality, it was 3 days, and 3 days is 1 day now with the pandemic. So that part was a little hard, because the longer it took to do it right and to really incorporate the students and to meet with the students, because they're the most important part of this, that's what kind of slowed it up a little bit. But in reality, stepping back, I'm like, it really wasn't, it felt like forever, but it was just that whole process of doing it the right way in a situation that everything we do now is with one arm tied behind your back. Even Spirit Week, they're not communicating like they usually do. They're not having their delegate meetings like they usually do. Everything we're doing is new and the first time. Everything. The most mundane textbook handout is new and different. So that's the part where it's frustrating, and where I think social media works against us, because things get bigger before we can even follow our steps and procedures on how we would like to do something. So.
Thanks, Tammy. I'd point out, I guess, just that we're a Board of Education. We're a district of systems and policy. So that's what helps guide us through to navigate. We have these goals, and we talk about who we want to be. But then what we do, and what Lynn is the chair of the policy committee, there are thousands of policies that help direct all these small decisions. So when someone asks the board, or I shouldn't say the board, when someone asks a teacher or an administrator, can we do this or not, it's not a feeling. You're not basing this on even what you think is right at the moment. There's policies and procedures for everything. So I only want to highlight, because I think Chuck may have mentioned it, but alongside of this process of working with the kids and turning this into a teachable moment, I guess the fundamental, I sort of want to head off this question. The fundamental question was initially, is this political, is Black Lives Matter a political entity? And it is not. So that was the first, I mean, Gino can speak to it because he did the legwork, but that was the first question, because we do have a policy. We don't give to political parties or political affiliations. So there's a I don't even know what we call it, finding that finds that the Black Lives Matter organization is not political. So that question became, it didn't apply in this case. So there was never a problem to move forward, and that happened before it was chosen, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you vet these things properly before we even get to the point where they become a topic of consternation. Anyway, I just wanted to, these things happen.
Yeah, it's not just that. Some of the charities that we choose, we also have to make sure they are legitimate charities, and it's not a gift that you're giving. It's not to a person or directed at an individual. It's to an actual 501(c)(3) charity.
Yeah. Okay, and so you did that work. Any other questions?
I'm echoing Linda a little bit tonight, but Rachel, for anybody that doesn't know, I'm the head of the negotiations committee, and Rachel's co-chair of the Haddonfield Education Association. So we've had a couple of animated discussions over the last year or so, and we'll have some more over the next year. I just wanted to say that stumble, opportunity, learning moment, I think most of us have only been exposed to the last week of your life, but it sounds like it's been considerably longer. And the courage and the leadership that you demonstrated over that time period that we've watched is something that I talk to my children about today. So, thank you. You went beyond here, and I'm proud to hold you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Tom. Okay, I do not have a report this evening. Sure you're grateful. So we will open it up to public comments. I'll ask John to put the slide to call in. So a reminder about public comments. These are comments. By policy, we have a 3-minute allowance for comments, so we can get to all of our interested parties. There will be a phone number on the screen to dial and a meeting code. We ask you to mute your phone, which would be *6. When you get into the call, please mute it right away. And then when I call your number, it'll be the area code in the last 2 digits. You can unmute it. If you would please give us your name and and your street, not the number of your home, but the street you live on. That we ask by policy, and then we can take comments. It usually takes a minute because we have a slight lag in the YouTube broadcast and the actual meeting. So when I see numbers pop up, I'll call them out. Okay, we have a caller 856 ending in 10. 856 ending in 10. Could you unmute your phone with *6 and just give us your name?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jessica Fingerman, and I am the HMHS head rep. Thank you for taking my call. First, I wanted to say that I appreciate the presentation that Superintendent Klaus gave earlier this evening and his level of transparency. I can hear that he is taking the exponential amount of cases over the last 2 weeks very seriously. Over the last 24 hours, I've received many messages of concern from my colleagues, and I would like to share their concerns with you as well. Between students who are ill and those who are in quarantine or excluded, we are teaching increasingly empty classrooms. Teachers are worried about their health and what they may be bringing home to their loved ones, and they feel they are putting themselves in harm's way when they are only teaching 1, 2, or 3 students in person and the balance of their classes online. With numbers rising and in-person class sizes dwindling, in-person school seems less pragmatic and beneficial. Teachers are also concerned about the decisions surrounding athletes not wearing masks while playing. Between athletes and coaches, many of whom are also HSD teachers, we are facing increasing risks. Lastly, staff are concerned that we are receiving information second or even third hand. Information is disseminated to families and staff, information is disseminated to families and staff are not made aware at the same time. This is not a FERPA or HIPAA issue if a district-wide message is sent out to parents, but teachers remain uninformed. In the interest of time, after my remarks, I will share an article that highlights that the interests of safety and health can be balanced with student privacy to ensure that staff are appropriately informed in a timely manner. We should be notified that a student in one of our classes is tested positive or is in quarantine or is excluded, so that we may in turn be able to protect ourselves and our families. And that's not the case currently. I would ask that the board and administration review the article I'm going to send and seek out district council to find a way to balance the health and safety of our students and staff while also maintaining confidentiality. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns this evening, and have a good night.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yes.
I just said thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, we're going to do 856 ending in 51. 856 ending in 51. Please *6. That'll unmute. Sometimes they listen on YouTube.
Yeah.
So there's no delay.
Nothing.
Oh, maybe that's- all right, 856 ending in 19. Uh, 708 ending in 81. *6 to unmute your phone.
Well, we should maybe add to that sign that they should listen on their phone, because they've got the 30-second delay.
Yeah.
They're all 30 seconds behind.
708 ending in 81. If you *6. You're muted. Yeah, I usually tell them to turn their YouTube off or down. All right. I'll give 708, area code 708 ending in 81. All right, we're gonna go to 646 ending in 40. 646 ending in 40, *6. Okay, I see you unmuted. 64640. We're gonna go with you first.
Hi.
No, hold on. There we go. 646 ending in 40. Perfect. Go ahead.
This is Katie Flannery calling in from Windsor Avenue. I want to thank you guys for all the presentations, and again, I want to voice, our support and in regards to the transparency. I just had a couple questions. One is, and again, I'm not sure if you're able to answer this or not, and excuse me if I misunderstood, but I was a little confused as to the differentiation between the excluded cases as opposed to the quarantine cases. I am not, from the medical standpoint, not too familiar with this terminology, certainly in regards to COVID. And I was hoping for some kind of clarification in regards to that. My second question / comment was in regards to the cases of quarantine / the exclusion, particularly for the high schools and other schools in our town, is in regards to winter sports. I think that, I understand perhaps the district does not have the official power to have any say in regards to what happens outside of the school, official district. But I do think that this is a new precedent, right? I mean, you're seeing outbreaks that are outside of the education system that we have now. And if you are noticing that there is a connection, between the sports, then I do think that we do have some responsibility to come in as a district to say, in the interest of keeping the opportunities for the education apart, perhaps the sports sessions really need to be canceled. I do know that there are other, outside sports leagues, and I think the Ivy League and other places are calling, it in regards to the risks involved with it, and finally decided, it's now time to really hang back with this in the interest of the education for the schools. So thank you again, and I'm hoping that there could be some clarification again in regards to the exclusion cases.
Thanks, Kay. You know what? Can you guys put that difference on the Q&A?
Yeah, so.
Because that's an active document. Because I think if you explain it here, let's put it somewhere.
In essence, it's the same thing, except who starts it. So you're still quarantined. But if you were to go to Maryland on vacation and come back, it's up to you to quarantine. I technically, as a superintendent, can't make you stay home. If you get a close contact in the school district, I can make you stay home.
Gotcha.
So it's not a medical issue. It's an authority of who can control an action. Does that make sense, Kay?
It does. So do you have any statistics then on the number of people that were recommended to stay and they're actually choosing to still come in? Are people listening to your suggestions, or are they coming through regardless?
I don't have any statistics of people who are not quarantining when they're not supposed to be. We do know that if we exclude students, they are not allowed in the building.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Kay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. We have 708 ending in 81, area code 708 ending in 81.
Hey there, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hey there, this is Katie Bryan. I've called in before. I'm on Rhodes Avenue, kids are at Tatum, and I was just listening, as parents should and teachers should, to hear the conversation. And my first grader walked into the room, and what did you say, Bob? What did you say about being at school? Well, now he's being shy. He said he doesn't feel like he wants to be in school anymore. And I think that's children are speaking to us right now, and it's really unfortunate that, this is what we're coming down to. But, when someone who's just turning 7 years old comes in and tells you how they're feeling, I think we should take that into account. And again, just want to thank the teachers. I know that they're doing so much and they're exhausted, and they are certainly, giving assignments that may be too much for us at home, but it's probably not their fault. And I think we just all need to recognize that. So hopefully we can just listen to each other, listen to our kids, and, move forward successfully with whatever is best for our community. So I thought he was going to talk more, so that's why we called in. You want to say hi? Hi. Okay. All right. That's all. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, I think it was Brian. Thanks, little guy. All right, thanks for the call. Excuse me. I need B1, B7. I'm just kidding. There's no more column. It feels like bingo. Wait,
Somebody just stop and take a look on the list.
No, there's nothing there. Okay. Let's,
Actually, you need an auctioneer, going once,
yeah.
going twice.
All right, great. Thank you, Jessica, Kay, and Katie. And we're going to switch gears and now review our agenda for next week, so we can discuss any questions we may have about what we're approving. So I'm going to start us off with governance. In this meeting, I don't read them off because I know we've all had a chance to view the policies that will be approved, or at least reading for the first and second reading policies. Any questions on those while we're together? Jamie?
I do. Are we questions if we don't like the way something's?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. 7510. I guess my question was class 1 users and saying affiliated with Haddonfield School District students or staff. And I feel like that leaves it really open to, if it's an organization is affiliated with a staff member, they become a class 1 status. Whereas I don't know. And same thing if the organization's affiliated with the student, they become class 1, where it doesn't say the majority of students, the majority of staff, like.
Maybe are you on policy? Are you on
I'm on the regulation.
I think we're opening it up, so if you give us a minute, can you just tell us where specifically?
It's 7510, use of facilities regulation, and then classification of users.
What page?
A, number 1.
This isn't an updated part. This is part of the existing policy. So this isn't a change. You're just want to look at that.
I would like to look at a change then.
And what's the?
Well, my concern is that it says class one users include, because now have we always had the different classes? Because now we're going to be using a facilities
We
fee,
started this
correct?
like literally 18 months ago, right?
Is your
Yeah.
concern
No,
that
we
I,
make
as
classes.
a staff member, I can come and use it at a class one facility for one?
Exactly. As a
Something's not
staff
intended for the
member,
school,
if
so I can
have a
bring
team,
I can bring my band in or something. Is that-
Exactly.
Is that really, okay.
That's what that leaves that open to. Or if I'm so if I'm a staff member and I'm on a different team, then I can bring my team and we can have a field that could go to the students. And technically, that's what that's allowing. And I don't know that that's our intended purpose for it.
But I would think the
That's an
intended purpose
interesting
is Haddonfield use,
Yeah, but would it make
Haddonfield
it,
School.
Haddonfield school.
if everyone agreed though, if you took out the section that said students or staff, if you just left
Yeah,
it
just like the
affiliated
Haddonfield
with the
School
school district, does that suit what you're?
That's, yes, yeah,
So you just want to remove students or staff?
right.
Well, it's not the staff and students. I read it as the groups and organizations as determined by the superintendent. So no matter
Yes,
what.
but I don't think, I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify, I don't think it should be up to the superintendent to decide if a staff's group should get president, because while I trust Chuck, I think if it's a policy, it should really be very clearly stated that if there shouldn't be, I just don't feel like there should be a gray area, that it should be, that the intention of our facilities is to use for the school district and the students of the school, and that allowing and opening up to staff and their, personal affiliations, I think that's
Well,
not our intended purpose.
but isn't it all three have to be fulfilled there? It's affiliated with the district, the students, or the staff.
So that would be one of them.
I'm okay with your suggestion, I agree with that, but I don't know if anybody else agrees. Or if we should send it to
Where
committee.
is it?
Number one, it's the regulation.
I know, but I mean,
It's the very first thing,
Class one
classification
users,
of users.
page one?
it's on the
A1,
regulation.
A1. There you
First
go.
paragraph that has a 1 in front of it,
Oh,
on the regulation.
Well, the only thing, if you get so rigid in a policy that something new can't be fulfilled by the policy, then you can never have something new.
Well, we can
So
change
the discretion of the superintendent, I don't feel that's a gray area. But I mean, if we want to, if we're talking about it at committee in a whole, I'd be more than happy as a member of Lynn's committee to say, let's talk about it in committee. That's fine. I would just caution about the rigidity of any policy that involves the superintendent discretion. That's why we hire the person who's.
But also for clarity, anytime a problem comes up, we're not bound by law. These are guiding policies, guiding principles. We could literally change a policy on the spot if we wanted to. It's not good practice because we don't want that to happen with all of our policies. My point is, I don't think it's too rigid.
And
but
why
we could-
couldn't the person be a class 2 or a class 3? Class
This is the
1.
regulation, we approve policy, we don't really have to approve the regulation, that's up to Chuck and Gina, right?
We have made changes to the regulations in the past, but
I think this is more of a point of clarification.
Mhm.
I don't think we're fundamentally changing. I think we agree on where we want to be. I think it's just the words we want to use. And
yes.
Sure.
to me, the two words that highlight what makes a class 1 group of class 1, regardless of the fact that it says district, students, and staff, is that it's directly affiliated. So it's the Haddonfield's, not Haddonfield soccer, the Haddonfield High School soccer team. So the differentiation would be the Haddonfield High School soccer team is directly affiliated to the school district.
Or the
Haddonfield,
staff. So in that case, you would say that the organization directly affiliated with the staff. The way that's
So-
worded, that's what that means.
To give a clear example that happened in this district to illustrate Jamie's point, I don't know if you were on the board at the time, it was prior superintendent, Chuck might remember, but we had a food service director who was running a catering business, and she had off to the side, lovely woman, but she had asked either the business administrator or the superintendent if she could use our cafeteria kitchen to prepare food for a particular catering event. And whoever was in charge, unbeknownst to the board, had said yes. And she used it for that purpose. And I don't blame her, she was given permission, but someone then found out about it and thought it was unfair and not appropriate. And I think what Jamie is articulating would have resolved any of that confusion because it would not have then been allowed.
Well, I will use your example, but, and I'll add to it. That would be a class 3 headed by a teacher. Direct affiliated, because the catering business is not directly affiliated. The staff member may be, but she's applying for a class 3 use. I think when it says staff, let's say the HEA wants to use a room, C8, right, a large conference room, at the same time that a town sports organization wants to hold a training session on how to be a coach. The HEA is a directly affiliated association with the district. They would have first dibs and no cost. The soccer club would be in class 2 because the organization is not directly affiliated. The soccer club teacher may be Mr. Sweeney, right? Maybe the HEA co-president because he teaches those classes, but he doesn't get to call a class 1 because he's a teacher. The use of it is by the class 2 organization.
Well, if that's the case, then you need to take out students or staff because that's not how that reads.
So we all agree on the use.
We all agree on it, but you
It's
need
just
to
the
take out
wording.
students or staff.
Well, we can recommend to, and I think this is what Lynn is saying, we can recommend to Chuck and Gino that they look at that first paragraph in the regulation.
Do we have to kick it out or to go to another month? Not that it
It's
matters.
not, yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, we go next week anyway, can't we have it?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
saying, are we?
Oh, exactly right.
Yeah.
So we don't need, we can just have it. I just think this has been brought to my attention as an issue at the present time, which is why I noticed it is not written. It's written in the regulation that
I think the
that can
fear,
happen,
I think
so.
the fear is that a staff member is gonna say, I work here, so anything I'm affiliated with is class 1. But I don't read this policy.
But that, I can say that I've had, people have brought to my attention that that's happened.
Jamie, I would suggest the people that bring that to your attention, you can direct them to.
They did. I mean, I know that they've reached out to the proper channels, but I hadn't, and things were resolved, but I didn't realize that this was written this way, that there was nothing done wrong.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if any of my
So-
colleagues have had, I have had one discussion with somebody about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. And the change that you're suggesting would not have made any kind of difference in that particular situation, at least as I recall it. And I'm saying it was probably the first or second week of school. And that was the last.
Yeah, and that might have actually been the same, that might have been actually the same situation. So yeah, I guess I'm just reading this as in it's directly affiliated with students or staff, in which case you take the district out of it, the way that it's written. But I can see, it's up to you guys.
No, I hear what you're saying. Maybe, yeah.
I have no problem dropping those two. I would only have a problem dropping the superintendent discretion.
Oh, I wouldn't want to drop the superintendent discretion. I just don't, that I don't want to drop. I was just thinking the students or staff, only because, and I get like it's just the way that you read it, to be honest with you. You could read it, comma, students or staff clarifying affiliation with the district.
That would mean a young
Or you
child
could
with
read
Girl
it
Scouts.
Haddonfield School District, students or staff. So it could be read.
Justin, did
Dude,
were you gonna say something?
I think we said enough.
You know?
I mean, I think, if you take it out, I don't think you lose anything, or if you wanted to keep it, you could put, students or staff in the parenthetical there, or in parentheses, you could say, directly affiliated with Haddonfield School District, and open paren, including, students or staff in their capacity as such. If you're afraid of.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just trying to be clear. I feel like sometimes I go and I read these and I'm not sure exactly what they're saying.
So
Yeah,
I
we
was
can
in
take it out.
support, but I think if you delete it, the one thing that dawned on me that you would lose, I think did we not discuss that Girl Scouts would be a class 1 because they're a nonprofit, or were they a class 2? They're a class 2.
Yeah, and then that's nonprofit for,
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that's my only concern, especially now we're very short on space. That's,
No, it's good.
I don't mind any of them being in a class 2 or 3. I just want to make sure our students get first president.
And you want to make it clear so there's no argument.
Exactly,
The way
right,
it's
and there's
written,
no
someone
decision.
could
You don't
argue
want,
for
you don't want to
those
have
steps.
somebody have to tell someone no either. I think it's
Yeah. makes it clear.
safer to make it clear.
Careful. Okay. Any other,
If the policy is mandatory for first reading, we should probably just make sure that it has an M. Oh, never mind. We didn't, for consistency's sake, we didn't mark the ones that were mandatory or not on the agenda, so it's fine. Sometimes we do, sometimes we
Right, yeah, I
don't.
think last month they were.
Okay, yeah.
any other, policies or? Yeah, policies. Okay, we'll go to section 2, curriculum and special ed. We have our, couple of resolutions and a field trips and conferences. Anything? Personnel?
I'm sorry, you know what, I was
Oh.
making sure that this was under number 2. I just have a quick question. So there is yoga for preschool students.
Yes.
Correct.
So it's, but that's not something we would do for kindergarten, or, I'm just curious. I
Yeah,
think
so
it's
we-
great,
we
but I'm just
started-
curious about
We
it.
started bringing yoga for the preschoolers. Preschoolers are, they're the only level in our school district that don't receive any special area classes. So we decided a few years ago, in collaboration with the teachers, that it would be both a good physical and mental activity to bring in yoga. Since there's no PE, there's no art, there's no music, that is the only consistent special that they receive. We've been doing it for about 3 to 4 years now. It's been very successful, very well received. But that is the reason, like, because kindergarten doesn't have any specials.
Preschool.
Preschool doesn't have any,
Preschool,
kindergarten
yeah,
does,
yeah, yeah.
as do all the other ones.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on 2? Okay, personnel? All right. Business and finance recommendations? Relatively thin agenda. Nice and no meeting. Anyone see any errors in the meeting minutes? All right, items for future consideration?
Just like to say congratulations to those that were on the ballot and won.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of votes.
Camden County reported your votes by about 9 o'clock on election night. That was a very speedy turnaround.
A ballot to remember.
Yes.
Yeah, did you take a
Ballot
picture?
forever.
I thought that was pretty cool to be on that ballot.
Okay, not hearing anyone would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'm gonna make a motion to the door.
Yeah. That counts as a second. All right, thanks, folks. Thanks for coming out.
Good night.
Good night, Susan.